Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to be able to speak to you today. Maybe you could just kick off with a brief introduction to Bleeding Love. For people who don't know anything about the film, what can they expect?
So it's a father-daughter story. It's a story about reconciliation and, showing up for each other. It is a drama movie, but it has comedic aspects to it. Yeah.
Amazing to realize it's your directorial debut. And so congratulations on the film. I felt like I really connected to it. And I guess partly knowing also that, it's a real father-daughter playing your main characters. And of course, we all know Ewan McGregor so well. But seeing him in this role, it's something quite unique, quite different. When you first got hold of this script, which I know Clara also contributed to, what was your first thought and why did you want to take on the project?
My first thought was, oh my God, a movie with Ewan McGregor and his daughter. I was like, yes. And then I read the script. It was a story about a father and a daughter, and it also deals with issues of substance abuse. And I really connected to it emotionally because the relationship that I have with my father has definitely been, one of the most formative of my life. And I have my own self-destructive patterns that I dealt with. So I was like, I know how to tell this story. I know how I would approach it. And I pitched my take on basically the script, like how I would approach the rewrites of the storyline, but also the characters, the way of filming, and then there we went.
And of course, it sort of takes on, the road movie sort of tropes wonderfully. And it becomes kind of a metaphor, really. They're not just physically on a journey, but they're on a way to healing, to finding reconciliation. And there's that real sense of Americana, the West oozing through the screen, these slightly offbeat characters they meet along the way. What do you think it is about that genre which, can really fit a story like this and really, I guess, take the audience on a journey with the characters?
I think, I have lived in the US the last 10 years myself. I lived in New York first and then for 6 years, last 6 years in LA. And I traveled a lot myself, like with my truck, and I just went with a tent and made long road trips. And being in the landscapes of the West of America are incredible. They're so vast and beautiful, and they really played a big part in my own journey of becoming really myself, but also healing. And I wanted to show that in the movie as well, like that vastness and the beauty of that landscape, and how in the beginning her experience is quite claustrophobic. There's not a lot of horizons, but as they come closer again and both are healing, the nature becomes a bigger part of the texture of the movie.
And I guess working with Ewan and Clara, I mean, Ewan's such a veteran of the screen. Were you in all sort of intimidated by directing him? And then, as we said at the beginning, the sort of authenticity of that character dynamic really comes through the screen. Even at some points, you sort of think, oh my goodness, this is almost like too close to the bone. Particularly from Clara, like what an incredible performance. And they really do fluctuate from the moments, when they're singing along in the car, there's kind of this moment of joy, and then there's some really dark moments when he's thinking back to his past, when obviously she's really on the brink of falling back into her addiction. What was it like working with them, and what might have been some of the most challenging scenes to pull off?
Yeah, I think going into it, you never know how it's going to be on set, right? And I, of course, would think like, will they allow me to get close to them? Will they, in what capacity will I be able to work with them? But, both, of course, Ewan, but also Clara, they come to the set as, of course, professional actors, and we had discussed the script and the characters, and all the scenes, and they come very prepared. But then also we would do a lot with improvisation, which would be really fun because it was like an additional layer to, because their father-daughter dynamic really comes out, and it's like this extra layer that we could put on the script. So it was really lovely to have those two elements actually at the same time, and both of them are very like open and collaborative storytellers. So it was a really lovely, yeah, it was really good. I was definitely nervous and intimidated in the beginning, but it very easily went away as we started filming, because yeah, they're both just very collaborative storytellers who are not afraid to show themselves. And it was, yeah, it was really special to witness that and to partake in it. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite moment or a favorite scene, or one where you were really sort of taken aback by their performances?
I really also, as we were in the edit, like that how awkward they are with each other in the beginning, and then in the end how close they are. Like the range is, I thought, was really special to see. But then also, there's the scene in the motel where they have this blow-up fight, and that one was really, after we done the take that is in the movie, everybody was just on set, was just quiet. It was like because it felt so real and so like intense. It was really beautiful, and it was really nice to see how they Ewan would then compliment her if he thought that she did something really well. And yeah, it was really really lovely. I mean, that scene we had quite some time for. Some other scenes were more challenging because we just had little time, or we were in the car, so we had to do a lot of technical resetting and things like that. I think both of them, they're such incredibly strong actors that the scenes where we needed to do like something really emotional, we set it up so that we had a little bit more time and we could workshop it on the moment, and we could do some improv. So even though overall we had like 21 days, we had allotted, like, for the big emotional moments, some more time so we could really get into it. And yeah.
And
I
obviously,
think,
it's dealing with something that is a really sensitive topic, but it is something that really is a big issue still in society with addiction. How important was it for you to kind of present that really authentically? And I was thinking of other films that do the same thing, maybe A Beautiful Boy with Timothée Chalamet. I just recently watched Back to Black about Amy Winehouse, and I was thinking about the fact that sometimes it is important to portray these things on screen, in order to sort of understand them better and try and get inside the mindset of how these things escalate and how they go wrong. And almost, it can help people, if they've had that in their family or they might be suffering themselves, they can think about how to prevent things going so far. So, why was it important to tackle this topic in this way?
and to tell it in a truthful way that is also not, I think for me, it was important that there was like levity and light in it as well, because, in my own experience, these moments of like pain, or, where you're stuck in some pattern, it also has a lot of comedic moments. And there's also a lot of weird stuff that happens, and like a lot of, there's always also a lot of beauty in a weird way, and I think just portraying it in a way that is just dark, and it makes it seem so much heavier. While that's why, for instance, the flashbacks for me were so important, to show that maybe he saw that period as like a dark period in his life because he couldn't get out of this thing. But for her, it had so much meaning because it was like her father, and she doesn't understand that he's, being a drunk. She just thinks he's being fun and silly, and then sometimes really grumpy. But it is in a way like to show just like the layered nature of it, I think is really important for me, because it makes it more like the human experience it is, instead of putting it away as something like difficult or dark, or I think it is, but it's also something you can overcome. Yeah.
And I think the way you sort of layer in those flashbacks is really clever, because it makes you realize, that these things can be quite cyclical and they can be passed on through generations. And if you don't go back and revisit something that has been traumatic in your past, it can be really hard to sort of get out of that loop and get cycle. And I guess that's the perhaps what you want people to take away is that you do have to face up to these things, and also look at how your behavior might have impacted someone else, which is obviously his part of healing himself.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think definitely that's a big part of anything, right? It's like looking at something honestly and without a lot of judgment. And I think that that's also what I try to do with the characters. It's like there's no wrong or right, or and they're both kind of flawed, or not flawed, we say, but it's not. They have dark and lightness in them, and yeah, try to show it as nuanced as possible. And also, I think for me, this kind of sense of the sense of wonderment, sense of imagination is what I love in movies or in books or in music. And I try to kind of lace the story with that as well.
I know I've noticed how important music was to the film in that sense, even from the opening scene when she's like got the music blaring, and how that's weaved through the film. So, what role did music play for you?
I mean, I love musical movies. I really grew up watching a lot of musical movies, and music is always such a big part of storytelling for me because it's so emotional. It's like it's like a different part of your brain that is accessed through it. Like, one is dialogue and like rational things, and then music is this other realm, and that really taps into like this emotional experience. And that's why I love using music in movies. And also, again, like showing, in this kind of, she's like angry and she's just kind of defiant, towards her dad. So that's the beginning, and then later it becomes more softer and more, yeah. So I kind of show the journey through that as well.
And what do you hope the impact of the film to be? And I guess because we already had the premiere in South by Southwest, have you had a lot of people sort of speak to you about it? Has it prompted conversations? How have people connected to your film?
I was really relieved that people could laugh about it, and that people felt, emotional towards the end. And I think some of the most wonderful things that I've heard was after screenings that somebody would come up to me and say, like, I haven't talked to my father for a while, but this movie makes me want to reach out or think that it's possible, or, that it somehow, yeah. Or a friend of mine, she was like, oh, I'd like to stay, but I need to go talk to my dad now, and it's like that it kind of prompts to connect, I think is what would be ideal.
And I know you working on kind of, commercials and music videos before working on this. So, how did that kind of prepare you for taking on directing a feature? And what do you hope to do next? What have you learned from this experience to take to your next project?
I mean, it definitely, was a running up to this moment of, doing commercial music videos. I did some episodical work, some shorts, and definitely, being on set, I felt like everything I had worked towards was that moment, and but then you finish the movie and I'm like, next time I would do everything different again. But definitely just, yeah, I just really love being on set and telling a story with the crew and the cast. And I'm really excited to make a next project that is really different. Like I want to do a genre piece, either a dance movie or like a horror movie, or, something where I can really go all out with colors and composition and costumes and music. And because, yeah, I really enjoy world building. And I feel like, yeah, every time you just learn so much. And I'm excited to make a character-driven story, but with like a big world, Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me, and really congratulations on the film. It made me
Thank
laugh
you.
out loud and made me really emotional. So you sort of boxes there. Thanks so much for chatting. Thanks so much for chatting to me. See you. Have a good day.
Yes. Thank you too, Sarah. Okay, see you later. Bye.